Cherie Short, what's next? The new guys are coming to their beautiful new offices. The office of the Speaker is one of the glories of Capitol Hill, and John Boehner will be sitting in it instead of Nancy Pelosi. What difference will that make if you're going to work in Iowa or Michigan or California?
Well, I think that'll make a difference is that the young professionals, as you just asked, all of them going to work across the nation with having the Republican leadership leading it. That means the harder that we work, the more taxes that we get to keep, the values in our community, and everything that we represent in working out as a young Republican group. Overall, I believe America spoke and their values are represented. So everybody, all the young professionals working, I think their values are going to be represented in the Speaker's House now.
Tito Muñoz, what should we be looking out for in 2011?
I think what we look is for Congress to start working on a budget that reflects no spending. Spending is out of control. Also, stopping a lot of the laws that are infringing in our liberties. And that's part of what many Americans came out and spoke in the elections. I think that's going to reflect in the next 2 years.
Clarke, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that was discussed yesterday, I met with the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, and Congressman Jordan happens to be also from Ohio, like the Speaker designate. And the 3 points that were discussed around the table, and there was a varied group. I mean, I was there from Log Cabin, I had my colleagues there from the NRA, you name it. It was all about the economy, jobs. And part of that, what that leads into the 112th Congress, which all of us at this table, all the Republican satellites for the RNC are in concurrence on, is addressing a rescission package, spending cuts. We need to control spending in the federal government. That was one. Actually producing a balanced budget. We've talked off camera and we saw that piece mentioning of the Tea Party. It is acutely aware within our party ranks that if there's not addressing the budget, there's going to be heck to pay in the next election cycle. So balancing the budget. And then another issue that's going to be probably brought up by our colleagues in the House is addressing, or at least starting to address, welfare reform or welfare reforms. Those are the 3 things that were discussed, which seems to have a broad cross-cut amongst the Republicans, regardless of what part of the party you're in. And as you mentioned earlier, all of us here today are part of a party structure of inclusion, and that inclusion wins. And what's been unifying for all of us in the party has been the economy and the budget and spending.
Maricruz, what are you looking forward to in January?
Well, everything that my colleague said, but something very important not to forget is that with the 112th Congress, we will see transparency and accountability, something that we didn't see in Congress 111. Actually, for everybody that is watching, the upcoming Congress has a new website called gopleader.gov/new majority. In this website, anybody, any citizen can go in, they can give their opinions, they can see what's going on, and that is, I think, a tremendous effort to get more transparency and accountability. Obviously, it is what Clarke said, the economy, and that is very important, going with the Pledge to America, more or less going to the 5 principles that they had over there. And the first one was generating employment and reducing spending. And the other 3 actually support that, like having a strong defense, like reforming, how Congress is now conducting themselves, which goes to the accountability and transparency issue. I think that's going to be very, very important to be so inclusive, and more important to learn from the past. In the past, everybody knows we spend too much, and that has to stop. We have to reduce this spending, and as most Republicans said lately, we are not having a revenue problem, we're having a spending problem, and that's going to have our priority. I finally is to remember that what failed in the last 2 years was establishing priorities. Our priority was to give all of our efforts to create employment, and that hasn't been done. But this time, it's going to be done. First is generating employment and economic growth, which the two things are related.
The last couple of times that Republicans have made deficit reduction a priority, or said they were making deficit reduction a priority, they didn't do it. They often cut on the revenue side by collecting less taxes, and then didn't cut on the spending side. An enormous increase in the deficit during the Reagan administration. Another enormous increase in the deficit during the recent Bush administrations. A lot of the same people are in charge of the new majority. Why should we believe them this time?
Well, for starters, you mentioned the past, and we're acutely aware of the past. Maria Cruz just mentioned lessons learned. And this is a discussion point amongst us as peer groups and on the principals that were elected to office. So, as I said earlier, if this isn't tackled legitimately in the 112th Congress, there'll be the results will be a change again. And so, incoming freshmen are acutely aware of this. The incumbents, especially leadership, is very much aware of this. So we can't deny the past. And there are other past ills that we are looking at redressing within the party ranks as well.
I mean, this morning on the radio, I was listening to a Republican senator being interviewed, and he was adamant that he wasn't going to vote for a new appropriation that's in front of the lame duck session because it's full of earmark requests. And the reporter said to him, "But one of the earmark requests is yours." And he said, "Well, yeah," and he sort of mumbled an answer. And I thought, well, that's it. That's it right there. Get up on a podium and say, let's get rid of those earmarks, let's cut spending, and then stick your own earmark request in there. Can we really cut spending in the ways that these guys are talking about, and gals?
Well, the terrain's changed.
It's going to be very difficult. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Most of the earmarks, by the way, are coming from Democrat representatives, but not all, and you're right. Some Republicans also included some earmarks. But it is going to be tremendously difficult because on the one hand, you have your people, your districts asking you to spend this money in certain special projects, which is what the earmarks are. But on the other hand, we have the responsibility all over the country, and I mean we, the Republicans. And I hope and I know they are very committed to change the behavior of the past.
I mean, Tito, does any candidate go up and say, you've got to send me back to Washington because during the last term, I didn't bring any money to our district, and get a big hand?
But first of all, let me correct something that most people are saying lately about Ronald Reagan and his budget. And one of the things that most people have to understand that in Ronald Reagan's days, when Ronald Reagan took the country, it was almost the same as we have it now with Barack Obama. And Ronald Reagan created 20 million jobs. Ronald Reagan also created a defense system and a tactical system in which destroyed the Soviet Union. So for the money that he spent in those 8 years, we received the greatest advance in infrastructure, in technology, and growing our country. If it wasn't for the innovation in the money that the tax breaks that he created in the 80s, we would not have the expansion that Bill Clinton benefited later in the years coming. Okay, now going back to the fact that many Republicans do not keep promises. Unfortunately, that's going to happen again. Many people do not know this, but I'm a member of the Tea Party. Those that people call them that are extreme. I'm one of those guys. So and I laugh because it's all a bunch of lies.
You seem like a very moderate extremist.
Well, it's not a question of moderates. It's a question that when people disagree with you, it's easy to label them and making name of us that we are racist, that we are bigots, that we're extremists, because it's easy for them. So that's the way that they make a name on us. But in reality, we're people who are fighting for liberty. We are fighting for an economic freedom, for individual liberties, and we see our momentum in life in this politics system is that we have to also make accountable to these Republicans that we put in place, or these Republicans that are going to go there and going to work. We're going to make sure that they follow through what they say, and it's not just we're going to criticize the Democrats, but we're going to make sure that the Republicans don't go out of line.